How, bro? How? After all this time, it was that easy. It was this easy. Think of the years of me on my hands and knees in this office.
No one wants to have that image of you on your hands and knees in that office.
Begging Obsidian Fallout, please, Phil, Sarah, Matt, someone throw me a goddamn bone. Give us more Fallout. It's complicated, Matty. You don't get it. Plans are in motion. Look how quickly it has happened. How is this possible? I cannot process. I mean, I've never been more equal parts excited as I am frustrated that, yes, finally, but also, dude, how did she flip the switch this quickly?
We don't know if it was Asha Shawarma's decision, but we do know that Phil Spencer was an idiot that said, just making great games isn't going to make people sell their PS5s and switch to Xbox.
We're actually getting a new Fallout video game, and given that it's a retooling of an existing game that's been in development for a couple of years, we actually might get it soon.
It's assets and tools from Outer Worlds 1 and 2, but that doesn't mean the next Fallout game will come soon. It maybe gets released with the next Xbox Project Helix in 2028.
And it's not just going to be a remake, remaster. Like, it's an actual new Fallout game from a team that a lot of people have wanted to see a new Fallout game from, that still has all the senior leadership that was there during that prize Fallout game in New Vegas. Like, it was so obvious. I can't believe it took her stepping in and going, why don't we have more Fallout? Why don't we have this team on it? And here we are.
Obsidian is dead. Microsoft. Obsidian is not that studio that made Knights of the Old Republic 2, Neverwinter Nights 2 Mask of the Betrayer, Alpha Protocol, Fallout New Vegas, etc. Anyone remaining at Microsoft is politically aligned with Microsoft's policies, and good developers that made the masterpieces were purged.
Now, look, I know the world's burning down with Xbox, but I figured at least my excitement could convey to some of the teams there. Like, there are people who are still excited about things you're doing, man. Like, I am so excited at the premise of an Obsidian-led Fallout game. Their writing is a bit questionable, but when you play the Outer Worlds 2 and you look at the systems, the skill checking, the loot, like all these things that I think made New Vegas special were in that game. Just the writing needs to be better. The companions need to be better. It's like the one X factor that we will talk about. But when you see who's leading the project, I'm like, dude, this is what we've been begging for in so many ways. Let's talk about it. It's a literal bombshell report here from Jason Schreier of Bloomberg. So let's dive in. The article is titled Microsoft's Xbox to Shift Obsidian Studio to New Fallout Video Game. Obsidian Entertainment, a subsidiary of Microsoft's Xbox, has canceled multiple projects and will begin working on a new game in the popular Fallout franchise as part of the division's broader restructuring, according to people familiar with the matter. The video game studio also laid off around a quarter of its workforce, said the people who asked not to be identified because they weren't authorized to speak to the press. Now, this is building off the back of a story that we read from Kotaku just a little bit ago. And in that story, Kotaku said after Obsidian lost about 25% of their workforce, the people at Obsidian were wondering how they were going to balance all of these different projects. And as I was talking about it with Cog, I had one game that immediately came to mind. I said, that's taken up a lot of talent, and that talent could go work on something else that has a higher chance of success that I think more people want. And I think it's a barrier for Obsidian right now, where a lot of them believe in the project and want to overcome their demons, but a lot more people on the outside want something else. And that's exactly what transpired, and you'll hear me bragging about that to Cog on this week's Defining Duke. But the post continues saying, as part of the shakeup, Obsidian has canceled a planned sequel to the 2025 role-playing game Avowed, along with other unannounced projects. Now, before we get to all the fun stuff with what's going on with this new Fallout game, allow me to quickly say, when it comes to an Avowed 2, I understand the desire because there were parts of Avowed that had a lot of potential.
No one wants Avowed 2. No one wanted Avowed. Only political activists on X and Twitter pretended to like that slop.
Where Obsidian would want to try again, right? This was a messy project, started off as Skyrim, but also an MMO, turned into a single player thing, but also you could feel the bones of an old multiplayer game there. And for me, as someone who's been a fan and player of most Obsidian games since 2004 with Knights of the Old Republic 2, I confidently say that Avowed was their worst project. I think in a world where Xbox is feeling a little risky, you could swing in Avowed 2 and see what comes of it. But I think just like they're repurposing a seemingly Fallout adjacent project into something Fallout, I think the way Avowed 2 gets over the line is by repitching it as an Elder Scrolls spinoff.
Repitching Avowed as an Elder Scrolls spinoff is the worst idea I have heard for the Elder Scrolls ever. I would rather Microsoft just never makes another Elder Scrolls game.
But Avowed was easily Obsidian's most controversial game. Socially speaking, it led to a lot of headaches for them. And not only that, but the game didn't really back up its talk. And when I played it, I said it was fine, but I thought Obsidian was capable of more. This led to a lot of division over the quality of the game. And then later that year, I felt Outer Worlds 2 delivered on what I properly know Obsidian for, barring some of the writing. So look, I'm going to be honest. I think Avowed being canceled is a good thing for both Obsidian's future, because I don't think a lot of people would have shown up for it if the numbers for Avowed, which was a certified flop, not just from fan perspective or Steam player count, but Obsidian themselves admitted it, then if that did not do well, I don't really believe in just doubling down on that, where you could spend your time and money and energy in another project with higher potential. And Obsidian had many of those, to be fair. As for the plan moving forward, I can't believe I'm reading this, dude. Under the new plan, studio design director Josh Sawyer will lead a new title in the Fallout universe. The emerging strategy is still in flux, the people said, and could still change. Previously, Sawyer had been directing a role-playing game that was similar structurally and thematically to Fallout, but was not part of the franchise. So they're repurposing something that was in existence for, who knows, maybe a couple of years, and turning it into a Fallout game. Which the exciting part with this is, A, the man who directed New Vegas is back directing another Fallout game. What an amazing feeling here. I don't know how Sawyer feels about it. He might be like, damn, I kind of like that thing I was working on. I don't know. He seems to do a really good job from his YouTube channel as I watch him. I'm very fascinated the way he's just not attached to the things that he works on. I'm a lover, so I'm a bit different. I get attached to the things that I really enjoy in entertainment, but he seems very disconnected in that way. So maybe he really liked what he was working on and he's like, damn, dude, I gotta do Fallout now. I don't know. He's always said he's been open to working on Fallout. So I have to imagine there is some level of like desire to do this, especially if the project was adjacent to Fallout and he just couldn't like work on the IP. Maybe this is a good scenario for him. I can't say for sure, but for me as a fan, I read this and I get hyped, dude. I'm like, he's there. We still have people like Leonard Boyarsky, Tim Kaine in the building. We have John Gonzalez, who is the lead writer of New Vegas. He's also in the building.
There are clear-cut two different eras in the life work of Mr. Josh Sawyer. Icewind Dale Neverwinter Nights 2 and New Vegas were obviously the early days, the times when he created legendary masterpieces. But let's judge what he has been making in the last decade. People change over time. Someone from 25 or 20 years ago is not the same person he was back then. Maybe he matured. Maybe he changed his views. Maybe he went crazy. Or maybe he just doesn't care and is just routinely phoning it in. Pillars of Shaternity 1 and 2 are not even close to Neverwinter Nights 2. Instead of intricate storytelling, Pillars are a vessel for political identity propaganda. Perhaps it's not as bad as Outer Worlds 1 and 2 and Avowed, but still it doesn't guarantee it will be much better.
We still have Fergus Urquhart, like all of these OGs, the senior talent that made New Vegas so great, that were part of that, alongside supporting talent. The main one that's missing, the one that kills me, is Chris Avallone. His pen is missing so badly at Obsidian, you can tell. But I'm hoping that with John Gonzalez there, that can stabilize things a bit. But man, like if you had Avallone there on top of everything, I'd be through the friggin' roof more than I already am right now. Still, we've talked about this endlessly. You can find theory videos on the channel. A Josh Sawyer-led Fallout project under Xbox makes so much sense. He's still there. Obsidian still has a lot of their senior talent. You have the IP at Xbox. What are we doing, baby? Now, they write here, Bethesda, what's their involvement in all this? Because that's what I was wondering, is like Obsidian on their own here. Well, Schreier writes that the Rockville, Maryland-based studio, so this is not like any of the other support studios, but rather like Todd's team, is actually going to work with Obsidian on this new project. So this is where it gets interesting, because speaking of Avallone earlier, Avallone spilled the tea on some real interesting beef that occurred between Obsidian and Bethesda a long while ago. It's something to be really aware of. Like, they literally had a PowerPoint presentation breaking down to Obsidian what was wrong with New Vegas. And that is some crazy level of irony to have done that. Granted, water on the bridge, it's 2010 and so on afterwards, but to now have that be the most loved Fallout game by fans, man, what a humbling moment. So I'm hoping that it's Obsidian leading the charge here. Obsidian knows how to get games done. They release in a timely manner. But if Bethesda wants to oversee, I hope this is the case for other Xbox franchises. Like, how is Halo going to move forward? I hope other teams not known as Halo Studios are working on things. A lot of people have issues with Bethesda Game Studios right now. I do. And I grew up a super fan of them. I don't think until I see Bethesda get their shit right, I want to see them working on Fallout. I'd rather Obsidian, who at least with Outer Worlds 2, it wasn't the best game they've made, but it was pretty good. I'd rather them, who has a higher chance of delivering a high quality Fallout project, lead the charge here.
Avalon was canceled during the ME2 era over accusations that later turned out to be false. He is blacklisted from the industry and will not be part of development of the new Fallout game or any game by Microsoft-owned studios. Tim Kaine is a cuckold, and his involvement directly means the game will be worse and more homosexual. Microsoft Bethesda last games were Starfield and Oblivion Remaster. Anyone that played Slopfield or seen the feminist brown slop that was in Oblivion Remaster knows it would be better if Microsoft Bethesda wasn't involved at all.
As for like what it can be, like they don't really talk about the type of Fallout it is. Is this going to be adjacent to old school Fallout? Because Obsidian's never shied away from CRPG titles. Sawyer got his kind of experimental game in Pentiment. I did an interview with him alongside Cog on Defining Duke. And when we talked to Sawyer, he admitted in that interview, something that never really got picked up is that he twisted Xbox's arm a little bit to get that project over the line. Like he basically said, if you don't want me to walk, then you need to let me make this. And so this is where those deals, like you can thank Phil, I think, for that one, because this led to Sawyer sticking around, and because he's sticking around, he's leading this next Fallout game. But since he got that experimental title done, Pentiment didn't sell overall that well. I don't know if this is going to be CRPG led, kind of like a Pillars Eternity style game, if this is going to be more of like a first person thing, because we know Obsidian has a ton of those. Avowed was first person. Of course, Outer Worlds 2 and 1 were first person, so they could go in that direction. I've always loved the idea of Xbox taking the Fallout IP and kind of giving it out to different developers, because I think as much as I want a new modern style Fallout game, I look at what Larian did with Baldur's Gate, right? And I don't say this as someone who has like a ton of lineage with Baldur's Gate. I still haven't finished 1 or 2, but Baldur's Gate 3 was awesome. But the way it brought so much of the tabletop RPG experience to the video game format, while also respecting a lot of the heritage of BG1, of BG2. I'd love to see a tactical Fallout game like Fallout 1 and 2 modernized the same way that Larian modernized BG1 and 2 a bit with BG3. Could Obsidian be doing something like that as they did with Pillars of Eternity, with Tyranny? Maybe. Could it just be a traditional first-person Fallout game? That would also be sick. I just am so jazzed to know, like, dude, it's not just a remaster and 76 updates and a TV show, an actual new game. I can't. Maybe this ages poorly and like it ends up being a disastrous game. I don't know, but I'm just happy we're finally getting what we want. Now, in reading more, what's happening with the rest of Obsidian? They say Obsidian released 3 games last year, 2 of which did not meet sales expectations, including Avowed, the company told Bloomberg Businessweek. The studio has been hoping to build on Avowed by developing a sequel in a shorter time frame using the world and technology that it already created, so basically flipping assets. Progress on the sequel was going well and was on track to be announced within the next year, which is pretty impressive here. But in the end, it did not fit into Sharma's overall strategy, according to people familiar with the game's development. So basically, it's not Fallout, it's not Elder Scrolls. We're not going to do another fantasy series adjacent to Elder Scrolls. So again, I think the main hope that Avowed 2 has is going into the Elder Scrolls category. That's because they're still working on it a little bit. They say some employees at Obsidian will continue working on the Avowed sequel as they wait for new projects such as Fallout to be ready, perhaps in hope of one day reviving the game, the people said. Obsidian will also continue to develop downloadable content for last year's Outer Worlds 2, the people said, and will still work on its live service multiplayer game, Grounded.
Even more confirmation that this new Fallout game will be in the making for much longer than Matty imagines, as some of the devs will be making DLC for Outer Slop 2.
We have a little bit more clarity on this thanks to Man of the Hour here. Chris Avalone, he posted on his Twitter account, and obviously we know Chris's history with Obsidian. He's got some inside info here. He says that it seems Grounded is still going, mostly outsourced to Eidos Montreal anyway, so no surprise. Outer Worlds 2 expansion is still planned for now, and the first one is in September, so pretty busy month for that. And despite reports, Avowed 2 is still being worked on for now in the hopes of being repitched, whatever that means. And again, my guess is kind of reframing it as an Elder Scrolls game and pitching it. And then Obsidian's basically support studio for Bethesda, but they do get these projects out the door and there is something there. All other projects at the studio, including the rumored Shadowrun game John Gonzalez was on, were put on pause. He says there's no mention of Pillars of Eternity games, so if Avowed 2 doesn't get a buyer or approval, it looks like maybe sometime or never before another Pillars game or Pillars of Eternity 3. I imagine this Shadowrun game is also what brought Tim Kaine into the building, because what he said he was working on wasn't Fallout. How some of the senior talent at Obsidian is going to be repositioned is going to be interesting. Is it possible some of this talent just leaves? That would change a level of excitement if I saw like, oh, Tim Kaine's out, John Gonzalez is out because their games are on pause. Or would they be excited to dive back into Fallout, to work on that, get the old band back together? I think that could be really exciting, and I hope that they stick around, all things considered here. But that's a little bit more detail on what's happening within Obsidian. I'm surprised that Outer Worlds 2 is getting its DLC. As someone who enjoyed the Outer Worlds 2, I think it would benefit from the DLC, but I also was saying to COG when we were talking about potential cancellations, I said probably Outer Worlds 2 DLC, because it's like, game didn't sell well, does it really benefit from getting the DLC out? Plus an Ultimate Edition, could you spend those resources even if it's a smaller team elsewhere? I feel like Obsidian can still be a multi-project studio, but maybe slimming it down to like 2 to 3 instead of what seems to be 4 or 5 would make a lot of sense. And so, yeah, Outer Worlds 2 DLC loses out in that argument. Anyway, that's the long and short of it for what's happening with Obsidian. Just a real holy shit moment, dude. Like, it's actually happening. Whether it's good or bad, we'll figure it out when the time arrives. But like, wow, like Fallout remasters on the docket, a new Fallout game from Obsidian. Okay, Fallout fans got something to look forward to that isn't like getting trolled by some type of 76 update. Like, we actually have something that, especially since it's a kind of retooled project, marching forward, it might be like a, oh my God, you know, it's sooner than we expected too. So yeah, man, I'm just like really optimistic about this. More than a Bethesda-led Fallout, I think this is kind of a best case scenario within the Xbox family.
Delusional Shill imagines these are separate entities and that it's not all just Microsoft. There is not Obsidian anymore. There is no Bethesda. Only thing left is Microsoft. What's the difference between Outer Worlds 2 and Starfield? Both are generic space shooter games with tacked on RPG elements. Bland, designed by comedy, sterile, boring.
And then obviously you got to wonder, like, inXile is up next when they do Clockwork Revolution, and that's next year. What are they up to after this? Are they going to be part of this Fallout push? I'd be really keen to see that, because Fargo is still at the top there. Wasteland is what gave birth to Fallout, and Wasteland 3, which they did before Clockwork, was excellence. So a lot of potential moving forward for Fallout. And if this is the first domino to fall, for those who are like, I'm sure the comments will be full of these people who are like, I'm out on Obsidian, I don't really care about their games, blah, 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 blah. I understand and respect that. But what is important about this first domino falling, and maybe I should have led with this, is that it's clear that it's no longer just Bethesda's say. It's no longer just them being like, nope. And that Xbox is doing what they should have done when they first got Bethesda and getting some Fallout going. And saying, look, this team's available. They have the talent, or they have the tools. They are able to do it. So we're going to get what I imagine is an Unreal Engine-led Fallout game from Obsidian. And if magic strikes twice, I mean, we've had years to really solidify the Obsidian Fallout greater than Bethesda Game Studios Fallout argument for a lot of people. And if they show up and they show out, I wonder what the future of Fallout looks like under Bethesda, right? I think that is the risk for Bethesda Game Studios in this all, and why, now that we're seeing it become real, these thoughts, these fears can become real. Like, oh shit, if they eat our lunch again, that's it. We're not working on Fallout because this is the new lead for it. Just in crazy times, man. Like, just what a whiplash of news. And I'm sure we'll learn more about Bethesda in the coming days, but this is what's going on with Obsidian. I've said enough. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know down below. We'll have more videos this week on the future of Bethesda. We'll have more videos about what's going on with PlayStation as well, because they've lost the plot, but at least some good news amongst all of this mess here, at least for me. So I'd love to get your thoughts down below. Fire away. Other than that, take excellent care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay sexy, stay active, stay physical. Love you all. Peace.
These are not good news for people that loved Fallout as a franchise. Old school players that loved Fallout 1 and 2 and Tactics. Younger players that loved Fallout 3 and New Vegas. Even for Call of Duty shooter enjoyers that loved Fallout 4. These are bad news. Microsoft Obsidian will reskin Outer Worlds with the Fallout theme and probably make LG TVQP plus propaganda slop.